Hey, remember, friends out there, we've got a bonus post-game live chat for you here, brought to you by our good friends over at Green Mountain Dental Group. You gotta hook up with them because they will hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush when you book a cleaning, x-ray, and exam. They have got a great deal for you too because they're huge Colorado sports fans, just like all of us, and got to get some teeth cleaning done. You may as well get it done with some people who know a little bit of sports, who can share with you in your Colorado Rockies and Colorado sports sadness. It has been a day for Colorado, for Colorado. I keep wanting to say Colorado Rockies, but the Avs and Rockies game is basically having the same formula here, where the home team goes up late and makes you think, oh my God, they're gonna do it. They're gonna get this thing done. The Colorado Rockies get the grand slam out of Kevin Pillar after a good start from Antonio Senzatela that looks like maybe it was wasted, but then maybe not. But then it was Patrick again. The bullpen implodes in a 10-6 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not a surprise that the Rockies would lose to the Dodgers in this game, but still tough one to swallow for Rockies fans.
And I hate to make the wounds any deeper than they already are, but you couple in the Nuggets' embarrassing loss last night to
Straight
another LA team, and Colorado as a state is taking the big L on the way out. We only spelled Colorado with one L, but it seems like in the past 24 hours it's now 3 L's.
Big old honking one, yeah.
It's pretty rough that not only did that Pillar grand slam make you think, okay, this is a big moment that can almost turn the season around, I think, in a lot of ways. And not turning around in the sense of, without it, they're in line for a top 10 draft pick because they are awful. And now they're going to be, this fantastic team. No, just turn it around from being a team that is going to be scrapping for that 8th seed and ultimately might fall short to, what do you know? They might take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. They might take 2 out of 3 from the Padres, and they might really entrench themselves in the National League and be only the 6th team with a winning percentage at 500 or higher. But alas, about 6 minutes later,
yeah, didn't take long, did it?
You texted me and said something about, well, now the bullpen needs to get 6 outs, and I was not happy with you for saying the truth. I don't kill the messenger, but I was like, Drew, I'm kind of enjoying that moment a little bit, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. The game is not over until the final out by Kenley Jensen.
Yeah, as it turned out, yeah. It's funny, right? How sometimes I've cultivated a certain image publicly, and I've worked hard to cultivate that image. But yeah, that I'm no different from anyone else when it comes down to that. That you recognize, okay, they hit a grand slam to put themselves up 1, and now they've got to get 6 outs against the best team in baseball with a bullpen that is known to struggle. And Estevez has been mostly very good to this point in the year. And I would even submit that the pitch he threw to AJ Pollock was not a bad one. And I didn't think that ball was getting out. It was a good swing. I thought maybe off the bat, doubling the gap, maybe Pillar settles under it. I did not think it was going to get out. The Jock Peterson one, that ball was gone. That ball was crushed. But the pitch to AJ Pollock, it's moving out and away, right on right. You don't expect that guy to take it out. Again, maybe with your A swing, you double that in the gap the other way. But Pollock got it out. These Dodgers have hit, I was listening into the broadcast, I'm like 75, 76 home runs this season. It's an absurd number. But still, what are you going to do? That's that's at that point just tipping your cap to the better team and saying, thought we'd steal one from you tonight. Didn't happen.
Yeah, it was tough because, as you said, they needed 6 outs to win the game, and by the time they got the first out, the Dodgers had already scored 3 runs. Right, Pollock with the 2-run homer, Peterson with the solo shot, Jeff Hoffman was in there as well, giving up a home run there to Mookie Betts, and the score just looks like there really wasn't much of a contest. Maybe the Rockies were in it for a little bit, but they were in it for this entire game.
Right.
They had an early 1-0 lead. Ryan Maltapia, leadoff home run, his first of the year, in fact.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, it's tap time on the West Coast. Got it.
Turned on a good fastball from Dustin May. May threw that ball exactly where he wanted to, and Tapia hit it out. That was a great swing.
It's fantastic. Then in the 5th, they take the lead again. Sam Hilliard goes yard against fellow Texan Dustin May, and the Rockies are up 2-1.
That was a great at-bat. Now, that pitch that May threw to Hilliard wasn't as good as the one he threw to Tapia, which really was in on the black, and like I said, right where he wanted to. May missed a little bit inside, or a little bit closer to the middle of the plate than he wanted there. But that whole at-bat, Hilliard saw off a couple of close ones. He fouled off a pitch that was right on the borderline with 2 strikes up and out away from him. So he had earned that very slight mistake from May to hit that home run to put him up 2-1. That was a great at-bat from Sam Hilliard.
For sure. And, Senzatela came in, tried to battle, get through the 6th, ultimately wasn't able to do it, did give up a run. It's 2-2 when he comes out of the game. But Michael Givens comes in, 2 runners aboard, 1 out. Gets A.J. Pollock to fly out. That's right. And goes and gets Jock Peterson on the strikeout. Never mind the Pollock. Bite my jock. Get off my jock. Excuse me.
No,
and he does it.
I think it works.
He's left in the game to start the next inning. It kind of, devolves a little bit. But again, everything gets reset when Kevin Pillar comes up with 2 outs. And that almost didn't happen. It definitely began to feel like, you know what, the Rockies are just not going to compete against the Dodgers for whatever reason. The Dodgers are just that good. And even if they make a mistake, the Rockies can't capitalize because Fuentes was there on second base with 1 out, and Story just missed one. He just missed it, flew out to left center, and it was like, that was probably the opportunity with Nolan coming up. It hasn't been good, but he drew the walk. Blackman got lucky on, I don't know what happened there. It was a little pool cue.
That was funky, yeah.
It drops in, and you got the bases loaded for Kevin Pillar, and all of a sudden, as I said earlier, it seemed like destiny was and fate was about to change, and everything, and the course of history was about to be totally turned on its head.
2 out of 3 games that Kevin Pillar was going to have the big hit for the Rockies. Here's the new guy bringing him new energy. And then you can even mentally start to sell yourself on things like, oh, all that losing to the Dodgers, all that like 2 for our last 20 or whatever against the Dodgers, that was pre-Kevin Pillar. Now we got this guy that hits grand salamis in LA. It's nonsense, but you sell yourself on that kind of stuff. As a baseball team, anything you can hang on to, you will buy into. And the Rockies could have had a mental edge to buy into, to hang on to against the Dodgers that they haven't had in literally a year plus, and they weren't able to get it out there tonight. And frustrating, but I also don't think a killer. I was on the Denver Sports Podcast earlier today, just before the Avs game, and I was saying, look, the odds are not high they come out of either of these series with series wins, this road trip with a great trip. And if they take a game in each series, no Rockies fan is going to feel great about that. And no member of the media is going to say, hey, watch out for those Rockies. But if they can do that, and play good baseball throughout the series, they're going to be fine and they'll get into the playoffs. If they play crap baseball and they get swept in these series, they're done. Their season is over. They're cooked. They played good baseball today. Carlos Estevez made a couple of mistakes. Jeff Hoffman made a mistake. That's two guys who've mostly been good for you this year. Shower it off, show up the next day. But they played a good baseball game that they very much could have won today. Didn't go their way. See what happens next.
You have to tell yourself those things that, all right, maybe it was one guy. You know, you're able to compartmentalize in a way and say, you know, Carlos Estevez lost this game. We as a team beat the Dodgers, but Carlos Estevez was the one who lost to the Dodgers. Hey, you know what? Let's go back out and do the same thing again. Show some chutzpah. Go out, hit some more home runs. And I wasn't saying that because Kevin Pillar is Jewish. I just happened to say that. And you know what? It works because that kid got it. You're right.
Yeah.
Pre-Pillar, and we're not going to count the 42-1 drubbing of the Giants on Tuesday night. I think did I get that score right, or did I shave off a couple runs by the Giants?
12 or whatever.
78-12. So 78-12 on Tuesday, but then Pillar goes and changes fate, makes the great defensive play, and then immediately turns around, does it on offense, does it on Friday night, and you go, wow, the post-Pillar team, this is the club. And again, not one man, and he's not going to be an MVP candidate, but sometimes you just need a little something to shake it up. You know, Matt Kemp was that guy for the first 2 weeks, and you go, wow, okay, that one little element can change everything. It's quite literally that chemistry where if you drop one thing into another, you could have an explosion. You don't want that. But if you mix sodium, you mix chloride, that's some delicious salt that you can put on your corn. You can enjoy it, and you got yourself a nice little treat there.
Big salt guy. I do want to answer this question. We're going to get back into this, but big picture question here from our friend Andy asking, do y'all wish you reported for a winning organization? And I want to answer this question very, very honestly. This is where I always get disappointed, where I'm like, maybe we should save this for the podcast. We'll see what happens. But honestly, no. Because, and I've actually talked to our friend Talkin' Jake off record about this, and maybe we should talk to him on record about this a little bit. But you know, they cover the Yankees, and they're huge Yankees guys and have been their whole lives, which means basically they expect to win every single year. And when they were kids, they did. They won all the damn time. And so it was just ingrained in them. The World Series championships are just things that should happen. And they haven't played for a World Series in over a decade. And they expect to every single season. And the Dodgers have exactly as many World Series championships during the existence of the Colorado Rockies as the Colorado Rockies. They've won one in my lifetime. The Dodgers have. And they expect to win every year because they make $2 billion and they spend $1 billion on roster and analytics and everything, and everything else that they do. They expect to win. And because it's baseball, they don't. They might eventually, they might sometimes, but isn't less pain in being a fan of one of those teams. It's just a different kind of pain. But when your team wins, if you're the Colorado Rockies or the Cincinnati Reds or the Seattle Mariners or the San Diego Padres, I've got to tip my cap as much as that franchise and the way they're covered bothers me. It matters more to you because you didn't expect it at the beginning of the year. You hoped for it. To me, I've always rooted for the underdog. I'm a comic book fan. I like Spider-Man. He's a 16-year-old skinny little kid, you know.
Drew, you always You very frequently have really good answers to questions. That might be my favorite answer that you've ever had to any question. Seriously, because I was a Yankees fan growing up as a kid, and that was that was actually a turnoff for me as a Yankee fan. I'll always be, a Yankee fan at my heart because of all the memories I had in the original Yankee Stadium. The post renovation in the '70s, but the original Yankee Stadium and all of the just all the memories I have with my father and the connection I have to the organization, that will always be there. But yeah, in the early 2000s, it wasn't fun because precisely as you said, you begin to expect success. And then it's like, okay, I can really start to feel something good when they lock up the ALCS and now it's the World Series. So you've got 1 week where you're on, the edge of your edge of your seat saying, "Hey, maybe these guys can do it." Up to that point, you're like, "Well, they better." They're paying $70 million to Johnny Damon. They're giving $100 million to Jason Giambi. They've just got money to spend on everybody. And when you expect to win, it wasn't fun. So instead of driving north for baseball, I drove west to Philadelphia, where the Phillies sucked, and that was fun for me to go to Veterans Stadium in an empty concrete donut, as they called it, and I got to enjoy that dump, but it was my dump. And that was what made it really fun, is to see how bad those teams were and get to learn about their prospects. And they got better. And they slowly became the team of destiny. And then that didn't get to be quite as much fun. So when that question is asked, do you wish you reported for a winning team? No, I just want to cover baseball. I would joke, 20 years ago that I wished I grew up in Kansas City following the Royals. Again, this is before they had won a World Series, when they just sucked, right? Because then it's mine, and then it means that much more, especially when there's nobody on the bandwagon, or especially when you got a seat right up in the front, and everybody that comes on this bandwagon that's jumping on at the last minute, they got to see you and talk to you, and you go, "Let me tell you what it was like. Let me tell you how bad it was in 2014. Todd Helton was gone, etc., etc. You're the first guy on the bus. You might even be driving the bus.
Got hurt every year.
Precisely. So that's really, in a lot of ways, what makes it that exciting. And sure, it would be great if the Rockies were one of those teams. They're not, and that's all right. But as you said, Drew, about all of those teams kind of having that baggage, especially if you're expecting to win all the time and you don't. Hey, you got to deal with that. And someone told me once, a Brazilian friend of mine, and I'm not sure how true this is to the idiom, but the grass is greener on the other side. And he said that to me once, and I go, yeah. And he said, "Do you know why?" I go, "No, why? Why is the grass always greener on the other side?" And he said, "Because it's full of shit, right? Manure." And I go, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." So devil you know, devil you don't, whatever, grass is greener, because you know what? It's all relative, right?
I like that. I'm going to have to use that. I really do. And somebody said to me today after the Avs loss, because I said, my most frustrating thing about the Avs season being over is that I just became a fan this year, and I wanted to watch more hockey, right? That really is the most heartbreaking thing about when your team isn't good, is that they stop playing sooner. And you don't get to turn on the TV or watch them on the computer or watch them on your phone the next day. And that hurts, right? And it had been a while since I had just as a fan of a thing experienced that, like, oh, damn, like the Avs aren't going to play a meaningful game again for a while. And that's brutal. I was enjoying sort of working my schedule around, getting my breaks so that I could watch the Avs play. And somebody responded and said, Yeah, but it's great, man. You jumped in at the right time because it's such a team you can believe in, and they're run the right way, and they've got stars, and it's the right time, and they're going to have this window of contention. And I really appreciated where this person was coming from, but I also wanted to make it clear that, like, that is the definition of bandwagoning, and I have been welcomed aboard that bandwagon. And there's nothing wrong with that because the Avs are a good and competitive team and look like they're going to be, but they won't be for my entire life, right? Unless tragic happens. Let's hope I live a decently long life, and if I do, the Avs will experience a downtime during that time, and I'm in now. You don't get out. I'm a fan of the Colorado Avalanche now, and so I think those of you who are, you're still listening to this, you listened to it in 2016 when Trevor Story was great, but you knew they were going nowhere. That you've been around this team for a while. You learn to appreciate those times in between when you almost steal one from the Dodgers, but you go, well, didn't happen. Let's see how they come out tomorrow. You never know. It's in the game of baseball, momentum is the next day's starting pitcher, as they say.
And to use a baseball reference to make what you're saying true about those down moments that every organization has. And we've said this before on the podcast a few times. If when you hear the name Johan Fland and it makes you smile, you're a good Rockies fan.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't, that's okay. Maybe you're new. Maybe you just recently moved to Colorado, whatever it is. But when I moved to Colorado 7 years ago and started following this team and pulling for them, I got to know guys like Johan Fland.
Yeah.
And when you hear that, and people know who that is, you go, okay, you're all right. You've been through it too. You didn't jump on the bandwagon and buy one of the last tickets on StubHub when the prices were going up and there was just all this juice. You were there when, hey, free rides on Tuesday morning. And you're like, yes, please. Thank you. I would love to jump on that bus that's completely abandoned and have my pick of the seat in the right field upper deck before it was even the party deck. So
right.
That's one of the beautiful things about fandom. And momentum being the next day's starting pitcher. If we were talking about this on Thursday, we would have talked about Antonio Senzatela, and frankly, he's our DraftKings king of the game.
Yeah.
After throwing 5 1/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, no walks either, did a fantastic job of keeping his team in the game, and doesn't get the loss, and he wouldn't have gotten the loss in any scenario there. So hats off to him. In this case, crown off to him as our DraftKings king of the game, Antonio Senzatela.
Use that code DNVR, but yeah, like straight up, man. And not only that, after giving up all the home runs the last time out against these guys in their house, and then giving up a jack in the first inning, I didn't like the pitch selection there. It was a good execution of the pitch. He came up and into Max Muncy. I don't know what he and Walters are deciding on there. Don't throw that pitch to him. He can catch up to that pitch. Your low and away fastball been getting guys to roll it over all game. He threw it on purpose. He threw it where he wanted to. He had just jammed Corey Seager on that same pitch, the at bat before, to get him to roll into a double play. But
3-5-1.
The 3-5-1 double play, right? I hated that pitch selection, though. It bothered me the second it left his hand. You live with it on a solo home run. Other than that, Senzatela was fantastic today, and really, I think got the bad taste of that last time out in LA out of his mouth. To this point, I was going to say arguably, but maybe not so arguably, been the Rockies.
The argument.
Yeah, he's been the Rockies' best pitcher this season. Yeah, he just has been, hasn't he?
Who else are you arguing for? You're absolutely right. He's
Freeland, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Not after his last
The
one,
last
not so much.
2 innings, and yeah, that was
But
brutal.
yeah, rebounded big, because he hasn't pitched historically very well since Senzatela against the Dodgers. Had 4 starts coming into this game, ERA up and around 7. So did a really impressive job. It was only 2 weeks ago that he had that start. So to come back and and do as well as he did, he if you put somebody exciting up against him, he is going to meet that match. I think there's something to that. Those guys who they want to know that the pitcher in the opposing dugout that's set up across from them is somebody of equal caliber, and if you're like, this guy, who is this guy? It doesn't matter. But you know what? When you got a Zach Greinke going against you, you go, oh yeah, all right, Zach, we'll see who can really bring it. Senzatela did that. Dustin May, one of the new
Yep.
heartthrobs, if you will. He's a fiery young man, and
He's
I
got a
can
look,
say that.
doesn't he? He's got a
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, I'm gonna say fiery. That's code, but I have a fiery mustache. You can't necessarily tell, but
If you're into that carrot top sort of thing, he's
kind of a Kyle Broflovsky. If when he takes his hat off, he has this curly, tight red hair, but he just lets it down. He grew it out a little bit.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, he looks good. But 17-1 Dodgers when the Rockies come to town. Their last 18, Dodgers are 17-1, and their last 28 overall. The Dodgers are 24-4 against the Rockies. 24-4. The last 2 victories the Rockies have had were September 21st of last year, and then you have to go back to like July 29th of last year for the last 2.
I'm trying
to
to
you want to go
remember
3
those
back,
games.
you got to go to June. So it's been bad.
Yeah.
It's been really bad.
You remember that scene in I think it's Major League 2 where Ricky Vaughn is just surrendered a home run to some dude he's never heard of, no one's ever heard of, and he's in the manager's office afterwards, and he's telling him, "Hey, the guy hadn't hit a home run in like 785 at bats or something like that. He was due." I was like, I don't think that made him feel any better, but hey, maybe the Rockies are due for a win in LA. If for no other stupid reason, maybe they'll just win one in LA by baseball numbers.
Yeah, I almost said athletes aren't smart people, but I'm an athlete. I'm athletic, and I'm smart. There's a lot of smart guys in baseball, but sometimes athletes can just be athletes, and they forget about the intelligence quotient. You just go, hey, you know what? I have to think positively, so I'm going to believe in this thing. Like I can remember the last team that I was ever on competitively at, I think I was 22 years old. I was already way past my prime, but playing with some college ball kids. And I was the older guy on the team. So I'd always, spout my wisdom. We did win the championship that year, so I did feel good about that.
Not a baby.
And one of the young guys on the team, very good ball player, third baseman, I think his name was Bobby. He was going through a slump, and all I had to do is go, Bobby, you bat 300, right? So you're going to get a hit 3 out of every 10 times, right? He said, yeah. And I said, you're 0 for your last 8, right? He's like, yeah. It's like, so you're due for 2 hits your next 2 at bats. And he kind of sat back and he was like, yeah, that's a fact. And he did go out and he got 2 hits immediately thereafter.
How that goes.
And he didn't turn to me and look like, thanks for giving me that. It was just like, no, that was, you just reminded me that of course I'm gonna get a hit up there. And then when he did, well, he deserves all the credit because he did it as he should. But it's just one of those things that all it takes is those guys, and that's what you do. That's how you become a professional. Is you forget about those 7 outs you make, and you just remember the 3. So Stu Cole's gonna get in there, Foster, all those guys, Bud Black, and just say, talk about the positives. Look at the things that they're doing well. And when they go out there tomorrow, it doesn't matter that they lost 81 to 3 on Tuesday night. It doesn't matter that the bullpen choked up another one against the Dodgers. It doesn't matter that they haven't won a 3-game series against LA since 1992. It doesn't matter. None of that. And I may have some of my facts and figures wrong, but I think for the most part, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, none of that was, specific enough for me to. Since we have, I think, gone long enough here, and I do want to go ahead and make this an official podcast, I do got to give a shout out to our friends over at WGT Golf, which you can get totally for free at DNVRGolf.com on your laptop or on your phone. You can play closest to the hole or full stroke play at world famous golf courses, including St. Andrews and Bethpage Black. You play just about any of us here on the DNVR staff. You can join our country clubs. We've got a third one now that is open because that is how popular and fun this game has been for all of the people here in the DNVR community. Again, you can download it totally for free at DNVRGolf.com. Having a lot of fun with WGT Golf.
Oh, so much fun. I submit you go, and next time you leave them a nice 5-star review, in the comments say, I can't wait until they unlock Fossil Trace. Because
straight up,
the greatest golf courses in the world are there. And I remember playing that in the wintertime when you couldn't really go outside. And I would put my phone, the screen right up to my face, and I really felt like I was outdoors and my body, was on some kind of fake artificial vitamin D high. Like I really felt like I was outdoors. The graphics are that good. But how much cooler would that be if, you weren't on one of these great courses like Bethpage Black, but you were right in your own backyard in Fossil Trace. So
Fossil Trace, that'd be amazing.
You tell them that, man, they're gonna listen and they're gonna have to do something about that. That would be pretty cool.
I think Fossil Trace was an OG BSN Denver sponsor. Like they might have been
I remember that.
Original sponsor for the podcast, for this podcast, like when it very first started. So yeah, man, Fossil Trace is dope. But unfortunately, again, and I hate to belabor the point, and I hate to frustrate the people who would rather talk about literally any other aspect of the team, but somebody not swinging the stick well again. And we just talked about being due, but Nolan Arenado, another 0 for day, rolled into an early double play that killed what could have been an early rally. He's sitting there with the 255 batting average. Bud Black has not moved him down in the lineup at all. He was in there batting third today. You and I have talked about at least moving him down to fifth. It's not the reason they lost the ball game today. Where there are others you can look at and go, man, he left a lot of guys on base. His LOB number today was 1. That's not killing you. But Patrick, we've said before that this team will go as Nolan Arenado goes for the rest of the season. And so when he goes over and they lose, it's not super surprising.
No, and after Tapia's leadoff home run, first, second, and third in the lineup, 0 for 11. Story went 0 for 5. But again, he's batting 295. He hasn't really been the issue, as you said. It is Nolan Arenado. It's frustrating, It's coming at the wrong times when, he's not able to produce like they need to. And again, the bullpen does their job. It doesn't matter that he goes 0 for 3. It doesn't matter in any shape or form. But that's not the world that we live in right now. The bullpen is struggling. So all of those runs are all that much more valuable. And he's not chipping in on that. He's, besides not driving in those runs, if he's not getting on base, how is Blackman and Murphy supposed to drive in runs? Like there's this, trickle down effect. We were talking just yesterday about some of our DraftKings bets for, hey, Trevor Story to score the most runs in MLB, and Story going into Friday's games was 5th with 31 runs behind Fernando Tatis. And in a normal year, when Nolan Arenado is doing Nolan Arenado things, Trevor Story is much higher on that list.
Yep.
He might be number one, and
Yep.
you're getting some notifications about potential buyouts, and you can already cash out and make some money even before the season ends. But as it were, Nolan has been struggling in a major way, or at least struggling for him and struggling for a number 3 hitter. There are other guys on different days, depending on the matchup, that you might like and say, I like what this guy's doing, and it just doesn't seem to be working out. And you know what? Maybe Buddy just feels that if anyone else is in that 3 spot and Nolan is hitting 5th, like we kind of feel might need to happen, it's going to be the same results, if not worse. And now maybe you've lost Nolan Arenado. I don't know.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to do that. And it's not like he's giving you absolutely nothing. Like 255 isn't, it's not brutal, but where's the? I just want to make sure I got, and I don't think this includes tonight.
And no one else is producing where you go, oh, this guy has to be hitting 3rd. Who has to be hitting 3rd right now? Yes, Charlie Blackmon's still batting 340, but some of that is just a vestige of what he was doing when he was batting 500. So by no means do you go, Blackmon's got to be hitting 3rd.
Right. No, I mean, I just load up on those contact guys and go, as we talked about, Tapia, Hampson, Story, Blackman, and I don't know that solves the problem in any way. I think you're right. I mean, the solution to the problem is Nolan comes out of his funk. I don't think this includes today. He's hitting 167 with runners in scoring position. That's 53 plate appearances. And in 94 plate appearances with men on base this year, he's hitting 210, slugging 346. That's just not Nolan Arenado. And
No.
it's so far below his career numbers. It's absurd. And so, I know and argued with Manny the other day, and he talked about it being a slump, but this is the worst run production stretch of his career, easily. And by far the longest he's gone in a slump where he hasn't been able to produce runs. So you can try to excuse it in a small sample size, but it's very clearly hurting the Rockies' chances to win. And the only question now, Patrick, is there enough time, and can he turn it around? And will he go nuclear hot at just the right time for the Colorado Rockies?
I'll say this. Buddy's not dropping him to 5th in the lineup. We know that that's not happening.
It seems like he won't. Yeah.
So go the other way. Go the other way. Do you bat Nolan Arenado 2nd?
2.
With Story behind him. He sees more fastballs, could change up some things just a little bit.
I like this.
And maybe again, he just gets more at bats, gets out of it. He's not really even thinking about driving runs. He's probably going to have less opportunities.
Yeah.
With runners on base, whatever it is, it's just something different. It's just something different to change it up. And it's not a demotion, right? To batting 5th. Batting 2nd isn't a demotion either. And again, Carlos Beltran, for years in his prime, he was hitting 2nd, and a lot of guys end up hitting 2nd in recent memory, where that's almost where you want your best hitter to be, rather than 3rd now at this point. So maybe that's one of those things that can change up. Ultimately, I don't think we're going to see Nolan be Nolan, because the numbers are just bearing it out that there was something that happened this offseason that he tweaked to get better, and that tweak actually has made him a bit worse. He's making more contact, but not as much hard contact. He's not hitting the ball as hard with authority, and again, he's making more contact, but contact really was never an issue. Even guys that are just 3 true outcome guys, if you can walk every 3rd at bat, hit a homer every 3rd at bat, and then you can take those strikeouts. Even if you strike out 200 times, you're hitting 40 plus home runs. there's going to be a job out there for you on just about all 30 teams. So that was never an issue. So it's interesting to think he would have made a tweak like that to get better on contact, which he clearly has, but worse on quality of contact.
Yeah. I'll show this to the people hanging out here on our video today. I put this graphic in an article I wrote recently. So hopefully you're either watching live or you've subscribed to the DNVR.com so you can take a look at this StatCast information that you can see exactly what Patrick is talking about here. He's striking out less than just almost literally anybody in baseball, and he's whiffing or swinging and missing less than almost everybody in baseball. But everything else, he's in the bottom third, sometimes in the bottom 20%. Hard hit rate, ex-WOBA, expected batting average, exit velocity. He's here at is now below league average in expected slugging percentage. He's below league average in barrel percentage. There's nothing that Nolan Arenado is doing in terms of a batted ball profile right now that would suggest to you it's going to turn around. He needs to change his approach. All of that has to change, and it has to change almost immediately.
Yeah, just get back to what he, has been doing, for 7 years of a Hall of Fame career, which shouldn't, be too hard unless there are other things that we don't know going on behind the scenes, but there's always things going on behind the scenes, and guys are always working through those issues. So it's very perplexing to see something like this, go down, and maybe the one saving grace is that, while it might be an entire quote unquote season that Nolan Arenado takes a major step back, it's a 60-game season. That's it. It doesn't really count as a season per se when we say, oh man, how many great seasons versus bad seasons? Well, even a great season in 2020 isn't a great season. It's a great 2 month stretch. So that's the one caveat there.
That was precisely why I pushed our friend Manny to ask him what he would do. And he tried to get away from it and say what Jeff Bridich would do. I said, no, what would you do? Because that's the right answer, is even if this team falls completely out of it in a 60-game season, a lot of stuff opens up in the offseason, and there's some opportunity there. You may not believe that Jeff Bridich will do the right thing. Totally understand why anyone might believe that. But there's one more opportunity, whether this team turns it around and goes awesome and has a great finish to 2020, or they fall totally out of it and even miss the playoffs that everyone else is going to make. It's going to be very fascinating to see what they can try to do to build around this one last core, because you don't expect this to happen to Nolan Arenado ever again. And some of these moves forward we've seen from the young starting pitching, particularly Senzatela and Freeland this year, are remarkably encouraging. So build a little bit of a bullpen, get some depth here. But yeah, see what happens for the rest of this short season.
Yeah, and this team looks a lot better in 2020 and 2021 with a good bullpen, as Chase correctly points out. Yep. It's the worst ERA right now in the National League. So really struggling. But again, you make that change, and now you talk about, hey, this is a very good team. They've been a consistent team all year long, et cetera, et cetera.
Bring back Daniel Bard. You get Scott Oberg back. You look at a couple of things. You stop spending the big money. You have big tryouts of 35-year-olds who have had the yips for the last couple of years. Just bring them all in and see who can figure it out, man.
And to be fair, I don't think Manny, would have made this very specific point, but the one, I guess, detractor of this for the idea of, the Rockies being not a perennial contender, but something very close to that. Again, back-to-back playoff appearances in 17 and 18. We'll say 19 was a hiccup. They're in the race and hunt for it right now. is, hey, if you can't figure out what's going on with the bullpen and you don't have a quality bullpen, you will never have a contending team. And that's right. I mean, that no matter where you're at, you need a good bullpen. But I think that's not out of the realm of possibilities. The Rockies have had good bullpens in the past. Good. I don't know.
1995, they had a great bullpen, sir.
I don't know what the reasoning is for that.
And
I don't think Colorado knows the answer to that either. Of like, what's the formula to ensure that they have a good year out of the bullpen? They still don't know, and that's kind of the most perplexing thing. Is you got to hope that the starting pitching and the offense and defense is in line with the bullpen, because if they are slightly off, they're just going to detract from one another, and you're going to have what the Rockies have had over the course of their now 28 seasons is good, but not good enough. Coming out just underneath the 500 mark more times than not. If they can figure out how to get those two things to line up, boom, it's going to lock in. And it's an Indiana Jones metaphor here for,
I think that, yeah,
all that jazz, and you got it. They've unlocked the Rubik's Cube, which that's not what happens with the Rubik's Cube, where there's a treasure inside of it.
The Holy Grail. Just none of that crystal skull nonsense. Just, what was his name?
Shia
LaBeouf swinging
yes?
Shia LaBeouf swinging with the monkeys in the trees. That's the worst movie I've ever seen in the movie theaters. Was that Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls? By far the worst movie I've ever seen in the theater.
I don't know why, but I am a huge Shia LaBeouf fan, and I haven't even seen a lot of his films.
I enjoy his work.
I kind of like him as a human being.
Enjoy him, yeah.
I kind of like him as a human being. Actually, on Amazon Prime, they've got Honey Boy. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen that yet. I heard it's really good.
He wrote it. He plays his father in the film, essentially. Yeah. So he's just an interesting character. He's in I can't remember which Lars von Trier film. I'm a Lars von Trier fan. Have you ever seen a Lars von Trier movie, Drew?
I don't know the name. What are the big hits? I mean, by his own standards.
You will ball up in the fetal position if you see any of his films. They are that. Dogville is probably one of the bigger ones. Nicole Kidman, I think she might have gotten some Golden Globe nominations for that. Actually, before that one was Dancer in the Dark. That was one that Bjork was in.
Okay,
that's soul crushing.
Okay.
His one before that, the first one was Breaking the Waves, I think. Soul crushing. It's like the worst of humanity, and Lars von Trier. He did that Matt, not Matt Damon, the other Matt, from now I sound like an old guy from Everybody Loves Mary.
From the Thing, with the thing,
and Wild Things, Matt, whatever. He did the House That Jack Built, who was it's about like a serial killer. And people walked out of it and stuff. Yeah. But the dude he's a Danish filmmaker, and wow, it's crazy. I don't know how we got on that topic, but
we've lost everybody. Oh yeah.
It was called Nymphomaniac Part 1 and Nymphomaniac Part 2, and it's wow. It's like you're looking into a real human being's soul, all of his films, and you're gonna have to pause it a bunch of times.
Excuse myself.
Contact your girlfriend and just be like, hey, I just want to know, I love you. And it's seriously, I'm not gonna say it's life changing, but if you can get through an entire Lars von Trier film, it's gonna make you think about some things. Lars von Trier, look him up.
Yeah, there you go. I'll as if being a Colorado Rockies fan wasn't crushing enough for your soul out there, everyone. Check out this Lars von Trier film. Check out these films. That'll break you a little bit more. Well, on that note,
we didn't talk about wrestling, but we did get into a little bit on films, so that's all right.
We didn't. Payback was all right.
Here I'm wearing a Macho Man shirt too.
Oh yeah.
I do like the idea of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler as a tag team. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, they just kind of randomly threw them together, but they're dope.
I think it plays.
They're scary. They would scare the hell out of me. Like literally, like if they walked into a bar. And I actually think Shayna Baszler is among the scariest actual. You know, the thing of like, who do you not want to run into in a real fight among all these fake fighter people? She's near the top of my list of like, she would kill me. Like she knows how to incapacitate me quicker than even like Braun Strowman, who could throw me through a wall or whatever. But like,
you could survive that maybe. You'd be concussed. He would go, "Oh, Drew's dead." He'd walk away, and you'd wake up, and then after you get out of the hospital for 6 months wearing a halo, you go, "Ha ha, I win."
Straight up. But Shayna Baszler could, I think, in less than 10 seconds, kill me.
Well, she's a black belt in Kill Kwando.
Yeah,
so
right.
She definitely would. And then, I mean, right up there is Nia Jax also.
That's a Breck Brew, Chase.
Scary.
Let's go. Come on. That's Breck Brew. You got to know what's up. But yeah. Well, on that note, we got to wrap this thing up. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out and listening to the show, even though the Colorado Rockies continue to lose to the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you're surprised, you haven't been paying attention lately. I doubt anyone listening to this was surprised that the Rockies lost, but you know what? One day, and I promise you this, look at me, look into my eyes, the Rockies will beat the Dodgers again someday in the future. They will beat the Dodgers.
Hey, our promise that when the Rockies had lost 7 in a row, we said the Rockies would win a game again that month. And I think they won like a whopping 2 games that final week in August. And so when Drew says they will beat the LA Dodgers, a couple of things is going to need to happen for that. One, we're definitely going to need to survive this COVID thing in order for baseball to survive and they continue to have more matchups.
Step 1.
But then at some point within, I don't want to say the next decade. Well, let's not put a date on it. The Rockies will beat the Dodgers. Yes, it'll happen.
Will the Rockies beat the Dodgers this year?
Maybe.
I know, right?
Will they beat?
No, you can't even say it.
Will they beat the Dodgers this decade? Probably.
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Will they beat the Dodgers this century? More confident.
Feeling more confident. Put the DraftKings over on that. I'm going to take the over.
And will they beat the Dodgers this millennia? Yes. Yes. All right. You want a hot take? You want a hot take? 53 minutes into this. We recorded this episide over 2 days.
I can't believe we talked for 53 minutes after that.
We talked Friday and Saturday. This is a 2-day podcast now, and we are hot taking it. Rockies over Dodgers some point in the next millennia. Book it.
Lock it in. There are people listening to this. I have no idea why. So I'm going to let you all go to bed.
No. Here's what we should do. This is the point. This is the perfect point where we have a special code word for all of the folks still watching this, or even if you watch it later on, that's fine. And if you kind of go up to Drew, or you just slip him a little napkin, because you're keeping social distancing, and it just has the word, Flibberty Gibbet, you go, nice. And you go, I got you next round. I don't put that pressure on you. But you know what I'm saying. You can just give a wink and you go, excellent. Rosebud. Thank you. And Matkin said Rosebud. It means something. Don't worry about it.
People who were there know. You were there and you know because you're awesome. So make sure that you're still following us on all the social media. At Drew Creasman, at PatrickDLyons, at DNVR_Rockies. You got to subscribe to the DNVR.com so that you can read all of that written content. Plus, you get discounts on merchandise like shirts, hats, masks. You can get a bigger beer down at the DNVR bar if you swing on by. There's other stuff too, right? I can't remember. There's other stuff too. It'll throw that. It'll put me in the commercials. Subscribe to the DNVR.com. You get all kinds of stuff. Just facts.
And
Facts.
other stuff.
Yes.
Besides the stuff you get, you also get other stuff.
These are all facts of the case, and they are undisputed. That will be my last Aaron Sorkin quote of the evening. Thank you all for continuing to be absolutely awesome out there. We will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.